Modern Spain, the 20th century. Spain in the early 20th century. The start of the 20th century was the continuation of the Restoration, which began in 1874. After he died, his wife, Maria Cristina, ruled until their son Alfonso turned 16 in 1902. During his reign, Spain experienced political and social conflict. The liberals and conservatives continued to take turns in government. Workers demanded better working conditions. Spain was involved in military conflict in its new colonies in Morocco. The Restoration ended in 1923 when there was a military coup and Primo de Rivera became dictator. During this time, the constitution was suspended and the king lost most of his powers. Political parties became illegal. Freedom of the press was limited by censorship. At first, many people supported Primo de Rivera's dictatorship. Later on, there was opposition from the army and from Alfonso. Primo de Rivera resigned in 1930. The Second Republic. The Second Republic began in 1931, and the Republicans and Socialists won the municipal elections. The monarchy was abolished, and Manuel Azana became president. There was a new constitution, and Spain became a democracy. All men and women could vote. There were a lot of reforms. For example, the church lost control of education or the expansion of regional autonomy. These divided Spanish society and caused political conflict. The Spanish Civil War. In July 1936, a military rebellion against the Second Republic began in Spanish Morocco. Led by General Francisco Franco, the rebels took control of parts of Spain. The country became divided between areas controlled by the rebels and areas controlled by the Second Republic. The Republicans were supported by the Soviet Union, Russia. The Soviet Union was a left-wing dictatorship. The nationalists were supported by Germany and Italy. These countries were both right-wing dictatorships. Fighting between the nationalists and Republicans lasted until the nationalists took control of Madrid. The war ended in April 1939. As a result of the nationalist victory, the Second Republic ended. Franco established a right-wing dictatorship. Some of the consequences were around 365,000 people died. People were imprisoned or killed because of their opinions. Roads, bridges, railways, and buildings were destroyed. People became ill because there wasn't enough food. Spain during Franco's dictatorship. After the nationalists won the Spanish Civil War, Franco established a dictatorship. He made himself the head of state and the government. The Caudillo, leader of Spain, he took complete control of the country's politics, economy, religion, and laws. The dictatorship was based on 3 pillars: the military, the Catholic Church, the Phalange. In the 1940s and 1950s, living conditions were very hard. In the 1960s, there were economic reforms and the economy started to improve. In the 1970s, Franco was old and ill. Admiral Carrero Blanco was prime minister, but he was killed by the Basque terrorist group ETA in 1973. In 1975, Franco died. Juan Carlos became king of Spain. Spain since 1975. After Juan Carlos became king in 1975, the transition to democracy began. The transition was completed in 1978 with a new constitution. During this transition, important reforms were introduced by the Prime Minister, Adolfo Suarez. In 1978, people voted in favor of the Constitution as a referendum, so it was adopted. Spain is a parliamentary monarchy. The monarch is head of state but doesn't govern or make laws. Art and culture in 20th century Spain. Spain has influenced the most important artists of the 20th and 21st centuries. Cubism, is geometric shapes to represent people and things, like Picasso's Guernica. Surrealism represents imaginary scenes and fantasies, like Dali's The Persistence of Memory. Abstract art developed in the second half of the 20th century. It represented ideas rather than reality. Eduardo Chilleda was an important abstract sculptor from País Vasco. There have been important developments in literature. The Generation of 27 was a group of poets that formed in the 1920s to experiment with new styles of poetry and artistic expression. The group included Miguel Hernández and Federico García Lorca.